Today, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on finishing up the rest of my IEP stuff. Then I'm going to be kind of breaking down each kid by accommodation and starting to form groups of kids that can do group work. Hi guys, it's Braylon. Welcome back to my channel. Looking ahead, I am going to a new school, new classroom, new kids, new planning, new schedule, new staff, everything. So I've been trying to really think about what's most important for me right now when it comes to planning and when it comes to getting myself prepared. This week, I've been doing stuff to prepare myself to academic plan. I haven't even gotten to a place where I can start sequencing things and doing a lot of that academic pacing because I'm not even at a point yet where I fully understand the kids and can plan out my classroom. I'm not talking about planning the furniture. I'm talking about planning the schedule. For me, the most important thing is to understand the kids first. So I have been reading up on their IEPs, everything. I've been reading all of the evaluations, all of the documents. 2 is now I've been going through and making my class schedule of what I want to do. My vibe is I like when everything is happening at the same time. So if we're doing math, every kid is doing math. Whether they're in inclusion or whether they're in my classroom, they're doing some math-related thing. I also like to have large chunks of academic time so that in case a service provider comes in and needs a time when they can come pull them out for speech or they can push in for a speech group, it can happen and it's not going to take away all of my academic time. Vibes. I have really been thinking a lot about what I want. Today, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on finishing up the rest of my IEP stuff. Then I'm going to be kind of breaking down each kid by accommodation and starting to form groups of kids that can do group work. I also want to look at my schedule and show you guys without any kids' names, just how I'm kind of scheduling everything from afar and ways that I'm kind of trying to accommodate pull-out services or inclusion services so I can have kind of the whole grid laid out for me and the staff. The point of me planning everything is so that I can know what activities and what subjects I want as a whole group activity and what subjects I want as a small group and individual time. I'm actually going to move to a different room because I'm going to start working on some of my stuff and I want to show you what I've been doing when it comes to looking at the IEPs and trying to group the kids together and kind of what that looks like. And then I'm going to come back here and I'll show you the calendar type of thing that I've made to start planning out my process. If that's helpful, stay tuned. If that is not helpful, then I want to show you guys really quickly what I've been using. So for each kid, when I reviewed their IEP, I would take some time to read up on everything, on them, on their evaluations, their scores, and I kind of wrote it down here on this snapshot. So I would write the kid's name, what are their strengths, their weaknesses, their general behaviors, what services they're receiving, what their placement is, some notes, and then kind of their grade equivalents, which is really, really helpful for me if I'm trying to replicate what they're doing in the general ed class. I kind of got a little bit more detailed in this one. So after I had the general snapshot, I kind of went a bit deeper. I was lucky enough that my school for the fall has information on the kids' reading levels and information on their writing, some writing samples that I was able to get from different people. But I know that some people might not be at this stage, or they might get there in the summer or in September. And so I'm putting this video out so that wherever you are and at whatever time you can access it. After I used the specific snapshot, then I kind of went a bit deeper with their information, why they're eligible, what their reading level is and where they currently are, writing level, math, spelling, and then just general comments. That was really, really helpful for me to have it all laid out. Then I had gone through and taken notes on their accommodations. So I went through and kind of looked at what accommodations they needed, and then what students use the same accommodations. Because if they're in the same grade level and they're being included in the same classroom, I can use a para for both kids. Because when you have a lot of kids and not a lot of staff and you're trying to juggle everything, I try to be as strategic and intentional as possible when it comes to inclusion times or small group times, and I really want to utilize the staff that I do have and use it well. If a bunch of kids need headphones, I need to know. If they need an alternative testing space, I want to know. And so I've been writing those down here for accommodations and then the students that need those. And then I kind of did the same for modifications too. I took all this information and I laid out each kid's like snapshot papers out like on the floor. I can't show you because it has kids info on it, but I laid them out and I kind of started to group them by ability. So if they have similar goals and they're working on similar things, I'm going to put them in a small group. And that's going to help me, again, staffing and time management to be able to work on the same skill at the same time. Obviously, I don't know if those kids hate each other or if one kid's humming annoys this other kid. Like, I don't know all that stuff because we're not going to know it until we're in the classroom. But I do want kids to be in small groups, and if they're not that mad at each other, they'll learn to live with each other. And so I'd rather group them together. I hope you can kind of see that before I even plan academically, I'm trying to plan out my day, because I need to know the chunks of time that I have to work on stuff and how long it's going to be and how frequent I'll get that time before I can even plan the sequence of the academic skills. That was a lot, but that's kind of what I've been doing this week, is kind of going through that whole process. Actually, let me show you really quickly my scheduling matrix that I've made for myself. I'm not taking credit for this. The other teacher at my school shared it with me and I replicated it because I loved it so much. I think this is like one of the greatest things I've ever come across. And so I've been kind of starting to put together like what my class's schedule is going to be and whatever. I'm not going to share with you the exact class schedule. I just want to make that clear. I'll share with you an example, but I do think it's worth it for you to take your own individual time and come up with like times of the day that you want, some larger chunks of time. I can't even tell you any of the things to do because it's so based on like your kid's IEP needs and your school's schedule, and you are very close to my face. So sorry about that. Here's my class schedule. It doesn't have any names, doesn't have any information, but it's kind of like the general outline of it, and I'll kind of explain it as I go. Each of my kids gets different services, so I've color coded them, and you'll see why they're color coded. I just picked random colors. So say this is John. He gets all of these services: speech group, OT, PT, BCBA. The speech he gets 2 times 30. Speech group he gets 1 times 30 minutes a week. You get the idea. And then over here, I put who the service providers are and their hours. So if Jill Smith is here and she does speech, I know she's at the school on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays for 5 hours. So that helps me. Down below, I'm going to go to the next part. So the next one over here is speech. So on each day, what time it is, which students, and what's the location. And then I kind of did the same for the OT services. Now it's going to get into the schedule. So I have my schedule. The only person I have on here is Miss Martin because duh. But each of those kids is going to have their name up top, and then it goes through the whole day. So they don't really come at 7:15, but that's like some people get dropped off early. And so I'm going to have the different parts of the day mapped out here. And I like that it's in a grid form because I can expand it for more kids. I can put like, say they're being included from 8 to 10, I will block that section off with a color, and then I'll be able to do everything. Whoever I get, so besides me, whatever paraprofessionals I have, I can mark off when their break is or when they're going for lunch or whatever. So that way I can keep everything. And then at the bottom is dismissal, who's getting picked up and how. That's kind of all that I've accomplished today, but that was like that took me like a week between reading up on the kids and making this. Oh my gosh, it took forever. And so I've been kind of mapping that out, and that has been so helpful. So my next step in this is to now start planning the sequence of lessons.